You fall in and out of all the thoughts that I have had today. Mostly you're just in the way. You are simply watching some old-fashioned black and white TV.
So I'm Shaun Raskin. I am 27 years old, and I ski at the Canyons and at Alta, both killer resorts, and I live up in Park City, Utah. Well, the first time I decided that telemark skiing was the sport for me was I was at a Telluride, and I was probably like 15 at the time, and I saw this old burly dude in the moguls with a bamboo pole just, beautifully skiing down this mogul field, and I just thought it looked beautiful. So from that point on, I just kind of tried to take lessons. I was terrible at first, always fell on my face, and then in college I was at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and my alpine setup got stolen, and I just decided from that point on it was a sign that I was supposed to be a tele skier for the rest of my life, and that's how it all went down. My mornings can start anywhere from, like the early morning start, which is like 5:30 out of the house, to get over to Little Cottonwood, meet up with people at, Grizzly Gulch and go tour and, either film or shoot. Or it could be as casual as, the 9 a.m. start and meeting up with good friends and going out and ripping powder or, playing on even just groomer days are always a good time with good people. So, but pretty much every day is spent on snow, so it's good. Obviously, off season, it's all about making money so that I can afford my telemark addiction, if you will. So in the summertime, I guide for this really cool backcountry shop up in Park City called White Pine Touring, and so I do rock climbing and mountain bike tours, and it's way cool. I get to meet a lot of really unique people who come through and expose them to a whole different side of life, and I get to spend every day outside, and it's rad, and so my summers are spent pretty busy with that. Well, sponsors definitely help out quite a bit, in terms of being able to do what you love for free, pretty much getting the gear you need to get you out there. Some people say, I've heard other interviews where athletes say that, becoming a professional or a sponsored athlete, you don't do quite as much skiing as you used to, and there is definitely some truth to that. When you're going out with, photographers or, films and stuff, you're definitely taking longer to set up the shot and things like that. But ultimately, I think it's definitely, a positive to pick up sponsors for sure. Well, I think the biggest misconception is in terms of pursuing telemark skiing as a sponsored athlete, is first you have to really understand what the telemark industry is and what you're getting yourself into. This isn't a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. These companies, be it Rosniel or K2 or whatever, they don't have a large budget to give to the telemark, industry, be it the athletes or for, gear or whatever. You're stepping into a pretty impoverished subcategory of an industry. So the first thing I'd say is, be ready to work really hard to, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. But no, I'd say the first thing, understand the industry you're going into, I'd say, is the biggest thing. And, be humble and know that you're not going to get hundreds of dollars to go, run around with photos and stuff. Definitely the hardest part is making sure that the communication's there between you and the photographer. You've got to both be on the same page about which line you're doing and exactly where you're going to be in the turn, and make sure that you and the photographer are on the same page with that. And just kind of the waiting around. There's a lot of setup and all that kind of stuff, be it film or still. So, that took a while, and the pressure, obviously, that, comes when somebody's got a lens on you is definitely takes a little bit of getting used to. It took me a while, for sure. Understand that you're not, that the industry doesn't have a ton of money, period. And that if this is really a labor of love, and being an athlete is an honor just to be able to get, free gear in order to push your sport and to be a role model within your sport. And it's a lot more about, being a leader in a community rather than being a superstar in films and traveling the world on somebody else's bill. It's definitely being a sponsored Telemark skier is a lot about, getting the gear, the tools for free that you can then use to step your sport up, to inspire others in your community, and to hopefully build something for the future where, you are creating an industry and building an industry that can one day have a travel budget and have, be able to pay their athletes. But for right now, I'd say it's an honor to be a sponsored athlete in terms of inspiring the next generation of athletes and industry to step it up. So my view on competitions right now would be that, I think that competitions are a very integral part in progressing any sport. We've seen the progression happen with the X Games and all those sports, and I think the competition, one, brings new talent, two, makes people step it up a notch, and so therefore it helps to upgrade a sport. Right now, I think Telemark could really use a little bit more cohesion within our competition community. I think it's really cool that, guys like Tough Guy and stuff like that, production companies are stepping it up and really saying, okay, we see that there's a need. We're going to go back to the competition format. But I'd like to see more people, more athletes, more companies really get behind the competitions and make it a cohesive circuit again, so that we can open the doors again for young talent to come in and push our sport and progress our sport and make the competitions feel like, worthwhile for both athlete and industry. So JT Robinson, he is just an all-around really strong big mountain skier. Be it huge lines or big hucks, he seems to, no matter whether it's on film or for a photograph, he stomps his landings no matter what, and he was actually just in Powder Magazine, which to me is a huge step to have a Telemark skier in Powder Magazine hucking a huge, I think it was like a 60-foot double ice fall. It was a beautiful photograph. But yeah, and he's just a really relaxed guy. Some other athletes that are out there killing it, be Max Mancini. He's just another really cool guy, very down to earth, incredible stories, life story for him, and incredible perseverance, I'd say, on his part, and just a really cool guy. And there are so many out there. I aspire to, I look at male telemark skiers. There are a handful of them out there that are absolutely killing it, and I still find inspiration from them. They're doing huge lines and pushing it really hard and understanding, the, difference, between dropping a knee and dropping a big line and having your heels locked down and doing that same big line. I think is, pretty inspirational to see those guys, pushing it and keeping up with the alpine world. But I think it's hard because alpine skiers, I catch myself constantly, like we were talking about how Rachel Burks is one of my role models. She's a female who's killing it, doing huge backflips, but she's on alpine skis, right? It's tricky because if you think, I think about how K2 is going away from the Telemark line, right? So, and there are some other companies I heard. But if we're losing that hard goods side of our industry, then how do we keep it how do we build an infrastructure if it's disintegrating?